What are you going to do to make that customer remember you and not just like every other insurance agency out there?
We have a gift that we have to take care of now, right? Like the gift is somebody was vocal enough to tell us as to how can we be better.
Focusing on the client experience is huge. Consistency is key. And we just need to know, the staff needs to know what the expectation is for that client experience.
Okay, everybody. So we are back here, and this one's going to be juicy. Stephen had a cliffhanger on our last podcast all about how he couldn't wait for this one. I am also equally excited because I think as much as we talk about processes, they are the core because clarity is kind. We have to share with people how we want things done. But the other half of it is I'm done. We can't be doing transactions all day long and forget that there's a customer because we're not the easiest way to buy insurance. We're not the easiest way to get service and insurance. And we want to not have it just be about price. Well, we better darn bring value to the table. And
Be able to get something out of every call.
that's right. And get yours out of every call. That's what we should do it. So Stephen likes to give good phone. I'm going to say get yours out of every call.
And getting a tattoo of a rotary phone right here says I give good phone.
And in prison, that will give you some opportunity.
One ringy dingy, two ringy dingy.
The idea is how many of us just rush through transactions, get to the next thing, get to the next thing, get to the next thing. And we forget that we need to stop, breathe, and treat that person on the other end of the phone call like the most important. And we're protecting what they freaking work hard for, because that's what we're doing. When we just start doing transacting, and I think this is where, again, I'm going to say it, like agencies have lowered their standards. Well, they changed the vehicle. Well, they did the certificate.
Done.
Well, we quoted it.
Done.
But I'm like, but did we do it the best job for the customer? No, because we tend to just be all about ourselves and what's easiest for us.
And we have 47 more people waiting for me to return their calls and answer their calls and solve their problems.
And then we should pop open our agency standards and see how many of those 47 are the most important.
One.
And the rest are all tasks I just kept bumping out because Kelly, Stephen, and Therese make me try to get down to 0 overdue activities. So I just snowballed them all till tomorrow.
Oh, let's not do that, guys. Let's not. I'm getting verklempt over here. We can't be snowballing.
Or because I overdo everything, right?
Spend far too much time in the wrong places.
So, Stephen, can we help our viewers just set the stage of like agency standards, right? And making sure that we don't lower our standards.
Yeah.
What should a customer experience look like in an insurance agency?
I think when customers call, they don't know what to expect, but they're so used to poor service everywhere that they aren't even going to say anything if it's just mediocre. They're just going to be like, well, it got solved, moving on. Same bland experience. But I think that we really need to define to our team what the standard is for what a good call looks like. And one of the things we talk about in WOW Service and in a lot of our other courses is what can we get out of the call? Is it a cross-sell, a referral, building better relationships, updated contact information? Like, can we plant seeds for the future, or can we just be impressive and make them remember us as nice, trustworthy people? Because I think, especially in the market right now, customers are crispy, but the agents are just as crispy. So if we can build a better relationship or make it more personal, it gets us a little bit further in the long run. So 20 seconds today can save you 20 minutes in the future is kind of the way I like to look at it. Because how long does it really take to ask a couple extra questions or be a little bit more relatable or personable? And one of the things that always sticks out to me is part of the checklist of an agency I used to work at was, if somebody's changing a vehicle, what color's the car? Does anybody care what color the car is? Does underwriting care? Does the company care? Do you really care? No. But if it was a weird color, like I had an orange car at one point and I called and added it and they're like, what is it? I'm like, it's called vitamin C. It's bright orange. And they're like, why did you buy an orange car? I don't ever see those. I was like, because it was really bright and made me happy. Or the other question was, does your car have a name? And have you named your car? And most people were like, haha, no. But I had one customer who named her car Black Betty, the little convertible Mercedes that she only drove in the summer. And she always played, was it Pearl Jam that sang Black Betty? And she would always, every spring she'd call and be like, did Black Betty have her bath? Is she ready for summer? And she'd be like, I'm taking her out today. I was like, yay. But when you can build those little relationships with the client or find those little things, and it makes it so much easier. that when something bad does happen or when they are having a poor experience, it makes it easier for us to talk to them about it. It makes them come to us first because they trust us, and it just makes sure that they're listening to our advice.
That's a really good point, I think. And also, when we're thinking about the experience, it's like people remember how you make them feel. If we feel rushed, if they learn something new, if it was the best call of their day, that should be what we're striving for as customer service professionals. Like, how can I make this the best call of their day? And when I think what happens is we all feel so rushed that we shortchange that most important of parts. People in their head get it so wrapped up. Well, that's going to take so much more time. How much more time does it say, how's your day going?
Right. How's your car?
Or they'll tell you, nobody wants to spend time with us. Nobody has any time to spend on their insurance. I go, I've listened to your recorded phone calls. I agree. I would not want to spend my time with that either. Like, you have to kind of break that down a little bit.
We do agency standards with agencies during an assessment. And I was working with an agency the other day. And at the very top of the list, it said, smile when you answer the phone is one of their actual agency standards. And I was like, that's pretty awesome. Like, we normally have like answer by this number of calls or here's to be turn time. They're like, no, we want everybody to smile, like physically smile as they answer the phone so that it comes through their voice. Because even if you're not in a good mood and you're forced to smile, at least it's getting you in the mindset of, okay, let's go.
Yeah, I think that that's a really good point. Therese, what do you see as the challenges that agencies have? Like, let's put our hats on, like we're in the front line, we're doing this all day long. And I want to be clear, I don't think that their job is easy, right?
No.
So it's a very difficult job. There is a million things to consider. So when they're doing the core work, right, I think it's praise, but it's also that we should always be trying to hit our potential, right? So Therese, what do you see on that front?
So one thing I wanted to say from what Steven said is that question is, how are you going to make the customer remember you? What are you going to do to make that customer remember you and not just like every other insurance agency out there? But some of the challenges that we face are just, number one, life is hard in general. Everything is expensive. I'm going to say the hard market. I'm going to say the word, even though we're banishing that word from our vocabulary.
Just the market, Therese. Come on.
I think we're afraid to answer the phone because we're afraid of upset customers. And what we haven't realized is if we're proactive with those customers, we won't be getting those negative phone calls. But we're so afraid to be proactive and do all the things that we need to do to get there because getting there is hard. Doing renewal review calls and doing outbound calls and relating to your customer and building rapport with your customer, it's not easy. So we have to go through those steps to get there to where we've got that rapport built. We know our customers. We know what their needs are. We're putting notes in the system. They have a dog. They have a young child. They have a blue car. They have a purple car. I mean, my husband's car is one of those chameleon colors that's green, purple, blue. And if anybody were to ever mention that to him, he would be like, oh my gosh, excellent customer service. They knew the color of my car. So it's those kind of things that we kind of rush through because we're trying to put out fires when we could put out the fires in the beginning by being proactive, but we have to work through that process and get there. We're not there yet. So all we're doing is we're looking at that phone every time it rings. And instead of it being an opportunity, we're looking at it as, oh my gosh, it's going to be a mad customer. So we don't want to answer it. But if we don't answer the phone and we don't have customers, what do we have? Nothing. And do we have any money? No, because we're not talking to our customers. There was a time when I was growing up working in a grocery store, customer service, the customer is always right. Well, we know in insurance, the customer is not always right, but we have to educate them so they can learn about insurance, so they can understand it better, and so they understand why we're giving them the coverage that we are. It's because we're experts in our field. We need to build rapport so we know what coverage they need. My neighbor has 5 children. Her car broke down the other day. She did not have to get a rental because her husband is a mechanic, but thank goodness she didn't have all 5 kids with her. She only had 1 with her. But if her insurance agent doesn't know that she has 5 kids, they're going to give her a $30 a day rental car, and then she wouldn't be able to fit all those 5 kids in her car. So we have to get to know our customers to be able to provide the insurance coverage that they truly need.
No, I agree with that. And if you're not sure, you have to ask. That's it, right? I think that goes into kind of what we're talking about, like enhancing the customer experience, right? So I can't tell you how many times I think like sometimes people think, oh, our customers are dumb. They don't understand insurance. They're not supposed to. They're not licensed. And by the way, like the idea is that they pay you to trust them. Like I don't need to know tax law. I trust my accountant is doing that, right? There's an implied relationship trust. And that's why we have to kind of slow down to speed up. And also, too, when we think about the customer experience, like remember, everybody's entitled to their feelings. That's their point of reality. And so if we frustrate somebody with like maybe we're speaking too technically, or the fact that they didn't know and they look at us like you're supposed to tell me you're my person, like that's things that we have to really drive down and get through. And I think when we talk about the customer experience, we have to be super, super open to feedback. Okay. So we do this, I think, pretty well at APP, where when we take customer feedback, we take it pretty seriously and we put a lot of it into action like pretty quickly. Now, I think sometimes you have to be a little bit more up to speed on things, right? Like you can't necessarily just blow it out there. But when we really think about how we take that feedback, it's meant to make you better, right? So somebody told me a long time ago, feedback is a gift, even though it feels like a slap across the face, right? So if you don't know you've got spinach in your teeth, you can't get better. If you don't know how you made the customer feel, you can't get better. And so often when we bring things like this up in insurance agencies, everyone gets super defensive. And I'm like, simmer down. I'll do Steven's no drama llama. Okay, like, hey, we have a gift that we have to take care of now, right? Like the gift is somebody was vocal enough to tell us this. So how can we be better? Now, there's no milk going back in the jug. That's why I let go of like getting defensive on it. Like the milk's out of the jug. It's not going back into the jug. So let's just figure out the next one. And guess what? Since you're so B word or busy, you have 20 more opportunities today to change this. So you think of one customer out of 1,000 that you work with, you're going to like lose that battle all the time. That's way less than 1%. It's 1% of 1%. But I also think a key thing that we do here is if when we find an identified challenge with a customer, we do what's called a client autopsy. What worked, what didn't work, what can we learn? And that's all it's taken from it. And on the meetings that we have, like nobody's at fault, nobody's blamed, nobody's written up. We're not throwing anybody under the bus. In fact, if that happened, I would lose my shiznizzle. We make everybody go around the room and say, what happened? What did they learn? What happened? What did they learn? What happened? What did they learn? And there's a power of saying, if you lose a customer, what happened? What did we learn? That everybody's got to get into a room and talk about it. Because when you show up there, you start identifying more and more like the common themes or patterns, or like next time you're just kind of on a better behavior, right? Like you have a heightened awareness of it. So a huge takeaway we tell people is like, why not just go look, but look at the whole account, pull the recorded phone calls. Everybody will tell you the customer left because of price. Like, okay, that's great. But we hadn't talked to them 5 years before they got this price. So it's like a little deeper than sometimes we think. It's really easy to say they moved, died, went out of business, or price. Because all those are like, take us out of the equation. But everything we do could influence their ability, right? Stephen, you're on mute.
I was telling funny jokes the whole time and nobody heard them.
No, they did not hear that. They did not hear that.
That's fucking with the hit space bar, sorry.
Stephen, what are some key takeaways that we've learned today?
I think that for the customer experience, consistency is key. Like, get in a routine and know what to ask or know what the standards are. My secret story I wanted to share as the takeaway for customer experience is I thought that a process the agency had was hokey and ridiculous. Anytime somebody called that was not on EFT to make a payment, we had to take the payment, but first we talk about all the benefits and other ways they could pay. Like, you can call the carrier directly. You can mail in a check. You can go online. Okay, great. Do you want me to set you up for EFT or reoccurring credit card? No? Perfect. Well, then let me tell you about umbrella coverage because it doesn't look like you have one. And it was just like, it got to the point where people would call 12 times a year, but every time I'd be like, so you already understand there's other ways to pay your bill? And they'd be like, yep. And I go, well, what are they? And if they could answer all 5, then I would say, great, well, let me tell you about an umbrella. They're like, you already did that as well. I'm like, and you still don't have one. Our agency firmly believes in liability protection, and it's one of your biggest risks. Let's continue on about umbrella. And it got to the point where every customer that called in every month knew all the payment options available to them. And most of them would select one after month 5 or 6. Or if they kept calling, most of them ended up with an umbrella. So again, it was just the consistency of going through the process, even though I thought it was silly at first, and sounding like the broker market, that even the clients were like, please don't talk to me about an umbrella again or all the billing options. And I'd be like, haha, well, our agency standard is whenever you call in, we notify you of all the payment options available to you. So let's go. But I think sometimes too, once people hear it enough, they're like, fine, I'll just pay the bill online, or fine, I'll just go on EFT, or yes, I really do need an umbrella. Because I would have a story of the month. So the story would change every month about why an umbrella was needed. So I think, again, focusing on the client experience is huge. Consistency is key. And we just need to know, the staff needs to know what the expectation is for that client experience. If we set it and monitor it, it's easier to follow.
I agree wholeheartedly. So just to conclude, everybody, if you're struggling, take a look at our processes. All of them have built-in customer experience. So everything from like check-ins, scripts, email templates, everything to make sure that we're not just transacting, but we're making an impact on our customers. And so you can get our processes individually for $200, super easy, just a starting point. And even if you pick it and you learn something and you apply a couple things to your process, you're going to see a bump in how you treat your customers. But what I would say is we have to shake off the idea that transactions are enough. They are not in a hard market. People want to have a great feeling about doing business with you. And when that turns, it's really hard to turn it back around.
And people don't mind spending a little bit more money on things that they like, and we want them to like you.
Especially if they have peace of mind, right? Like if they're like, yeah, I know I could save a little bit of money, but like they've always just treated me so well, I've never had any issues. That's going to be the key component. All right, our next podcast is policy cancellations. What is the best process? Because this one is one that we're seeing more and more in a hard market. People are leaving. And I think it's a lot of different ways that we have to make that work. So we will see you in our next podcast.